Hey guys, it's Linda Winter of Winter Designs. I have a new template for you. Now, many of you know about my baby bib. This baby bib, I show you in my video how to make it for preemies and how to make it for older babies too. And even with the pocket. I do the closure a little bit differently around the neck. But this guy here, lots of you own it. And if you don't own it and you need to make bibs, fastest, easiest, the easiest way to make consistent bibs. Then I came out with an adult bib. I hate the adult bib term, so it's really a clothing protector, but this is perfect, and this was a customer request. I had lots of people asking for that. Okay, so these two are kind of related to the new template, so I'm going to get that out of the way. This guy here, if you're a mom, if you're a grandmom, if you sew for babies, then you probably know this shape already. This is the fold. This is a drool bib, so basically it would be here. Let's take a look. This is a little drool bib. This is going to snap or button or Velcro or whatever around the baby's neck. Now, I made the template one size. If y'all really want different sizes, then you can let me know. But it's easy enough to adjust the template when you're cutting your fabric. It's really just like a half of an inch smaller or larger based on whether you're going for, birth to 3 months, 6 months to whatever. So the template, because of our no-slip material on it, means every cut you make is going to be accurate and consistent. By the way, I want to talk about our new template look. Many of you know Martelli templates, winter design templates with this tan material. The tan material, let's grab some fabric. This tan material, when I go to cut, this grabs. The black grabs too, equally as well. It's just a different color. You can see how this grabs. I'm going to cut out in a minute, but when I talked about sizes, let's just kind of look at this. This is where our fold is. If you were doing for a normal size that I have here, we'd basically place this on the fold. Let's scoot this over here so you can see it. Right here, this is where my fabric would be on the fold. But if you wanted to make it a little bit smaller, we're basically going to look at our mat. I'm going to line up my fabric with the edge, and I can move this template in a little bit. And I'm looking at the top here, I'm looking at the bottom here. And when I go to cut, and I go to cut, and I go to cut, when I'm cutting here, it's going to be a little bit narrower. This is around the neck. This is down in front of them. The length doesn't matter so much. It's not so long that they're going to be tripping over it or anything like that. So it's just making a little bit narrower. If you wanted to make it bigger, I don't have enough fabric here, but imagine I did. You'd cut, then you'd move the template. Actually, you'd move it up. We would cut. Notice what I've done. I've given myself a little bit more length here. We would cut, then we would move the template over about a half of an inch. Right here, that's a little bit more than a quarter of an inch. The quarter inch and the quarter inch on the other side, that makes a half of an inch. When you go to cut, when you go to cut, when you go to cut, right here, you would just scoot this down a little bit and just angle it a little bit longer. So you can use this template because it grabs to do multiple sizes. You guys just have to decide what size you want for that baby drool bib. So let's talk about drool bibs and let's look at some of the options that I have here. So drool bibs, when we look at drool bibs, I've got Velcro here on this one. That's one option. I've got snaps. They have cam snaps. There's all different kinds of places that you can have snaps, that you can buy snaps and snap tools. This one, all of these are reversible basically because you've got the front and the back, or the front and the back. It really doesn't matter. So we'll talk fabrics in just a second, more snaps, but I like this option. And because I don't have babies to put on, I thought this would be great for a little bit larger baby. And to put that elastic, this is a headband inside of there. We're gonna put that inside of here and inside of here, and you just pull it over the baby. Okay, let's talk fabrics. So let's take a look at a wider camera angle, and let's talk fabrics in general. Because when we're talking about drool bibs, when we're talking about babies, and maybe even a little bit older than a baby, they're going to be drooling. They're going to be making a mess. Are they at the teething stage, that teething age where it just hurts and everything is drooling? Are the drools really messy? Are they really, sorry, but really gloppy? What is it that they're doing? If it's just having a drool bib around their neck, and this size is better than the traditional baby bib size. See how much this is longer. And even the traditional ones, they even go up a little bit more. This could get caught if a baby was, crawling around in and out of the car or whatever. This is small enough that they can wear this all day long. And then the idea is all day long, you've got to think about what kind of fabric. So how much are they drooling? What kind of consistency is there, sorry. And then how often are you going to be changing this? You really want to think the outside fabric, the inside fabric. I'm going to pull over on this one. The outside fabric is cotton. The inside fabric is PUL. PUL, polyurethane laminate. If you see me at the trade shows and you've heard me talk about it, this stuff is kind of a plasticky on the back. Usually it's a white or a little bit off of whatever color on the front. PUL, polyurethane laminate, wipeable, washable, breathable. Laminated fabric, wipeable, washable, not breathable. It's going to grow all the germs and all that disgusting stuff in there. This I can throw in the washing machine and it's all going to come out. So PUL on the back side, the inside. Minky, Shannon, plush is what they're calling this now, on the back side. That means the side that's going close to the baby. We never want to have this. We never want to have this. We never want to have anything that is not breathable, that's not absorbent on the outside of the bib. Because we want, or the drool bib, whatever we have on the outside needs to be able to absorb all of that stuff. And then you have to think, what do I want on the inside? Do I want a barrier that's going to protect their clothing so that you don't have to change their clothes as often? If you're going to be gone for a while, then you'll want something on the inside, this PUL, that will stop that going through the clothing. If it's hot, if it's a summer day, if they're doing something where, you know, it's going to be a whole lot of heat, then we definitely don't want to do minky, flannel, plush, whatever on the inside and on the outside. One, the outside it's going to not absorb. This stuff, it'll just roll off. The inside, though, will protect your clothing. So this, with baby wearing it like this, everything inside here, it kind of won't go through this very easily unless there's a whole lot. So I love this for a typical day where they're going to wear the drool bib and then they're going to take it off and you're going to change clothes and they're going to take a nap and whatever it is. This is just a real thin cotton material. This is like a seersucker kind of a thing. This is a very lightweight flannel, very lightweight. This is really nice because it's lightweight. The baby's not going to feel like it's on there at all. I love flannel too, but flannel with flannel, that's going to be hot potentially. Minky, flannel, anything terry towel, anything jersey, you've got to think about heat as well and how much it's going to hold and how much it's going to soak. So think about this fabric here. This outside fabric needs to be something that will absorb whatever it is. And then this side, if you need to have it where it's protecting the clothing, then you want something that's a barrier. If you want it to soak up where it's going to be taken off and another one put on, then something like this would be great. They make all those diaper-friendly materials. Y'all have seen them, the gauze materials. They're so lightweight and nice. They're great when you can put the drool bib on and take it off, and then put another one on a little bit later on and take it off. You won't want the gauze drool bibs on for all day because that stuff is going to get right on top of there, well, really up here. So think about your material choices. PUL, polyurethane laminate, on the inside, never on the outside. Shannon, fabric, minky, they call it plush now, on the inside, never on the outside. Any of the other fabrics you can use kind of whenever, however you want. Towels from your kitchen, towels from your bathroom, you know, all of the towels that you've embroidered on, hand towels, all of those things work really well too. You just have to think about heat. Okay, so what have I done? I've got a layer of fabric folded. I've got another layer of fabric folded. You can see here's my fold. We can cut 2 of these out at a time. I just want to make sure when I place this here that this fabric, do you see right there, even though I'm not quite on the edge, I don't have enough fabric. So I need to stop and give myself a little bit more fabric. If you put a fold in there like I did, and it's in the wrong spot, then you head over to the iron. I'm going to give that a little bit of a finger press. I'm going to place this on top, and I'm going to line these up. When I'm lining these up, that ensures that the front and the back, the outside and the inside, will be the same. Now, if you're doing PUL, do not cut these guys at the same time with another one, because see, this is all over the place. That's slippery. This, that's going to grab. So if you're going to cut something like this, do you see, imagine that I had the fabric in the opposite direction, but do you see how that's going to grab? If I had this on here See how those two pieces, they're moving. So never cut with PUL, the sticky side with the non-sticky side, with the slippery side, I should say. Sticky side to sticky side, even though I don't have the fabric here. You get the idea. So I've got my 4 layers here because I have just plain old cotton fabric. And this is a lightweight cotton fabric. And again, I'm just kind of lining this up. We're going to use our Martelli rotary cutter. I'm going to place this along the edge. I want to make sure that I have enough fabric down here, enough fabric here. And I barely have enough fabric on the bottom gray, so I'm going to scoot this up a little bit and realign. You're going to take your time getting this all lined up because once you cut this, you don't want to have to go back and cut more fabric. Now, nobody says that that baby Drool bib has to be exactly this size. I already talked about making it adjustable, but we've got a template. That template's going to give me accurate, consistent. Okay, what we're going to do is hold that, and I've got our measurements on here. We'll talk about marking the template in just a second. Cut. And you can see when I turn that here, we're just going to make sure that we're getting right inside of there. We're going to cut up here. I'm going to turn my template. When I turn my template, I want to get this in a position where it really is straight with my shoulder rather than in front of me. When I've got this here, when I go down to here, I'm just moving my hand to get closer there. Okay, so right up here, I was here. When we're cutting in front of us, we're not getting to that edge right inside. Shoulder is where we want to be able to cut. All right, let's talk about measurements and the markings on the template. So the template comes with winter designs on it, and you can see my Sharpie. I just marked on there, and it's not quite dry yet. Fold is embossed on top of there. I marked top, and then I marked the width. 16.5 inches. When you're looking at your fabric, you need 16.5 inches of width. You need 7.5 inches tall. So this template is basically 8.25 inches from left to right, almost. I want to talk for a second. We're going to put these aside. I want to talk for a second about fussy cutting. Fussy cutting, if you've got something and you want it to be exactly where you want it to be, imagine that this little bear right here is where I want it to be exactly in the center, or one of these is where I want it to be in the center. We're going to place this and see, do I have enough room here? This is the top of the bib. If this is what I want here and this guy down here, what I'm going to do is take this and fold. I've got my motorhome or whatever it is, and I'm going to fold here and look to see that I have the same amount, basically. We're just fussy cutting with our eyes rather than fussy cutting with the template. I don't have a fussy cut template for this. You don't really need it. So here it is on this side. I'm going to flip it over, and I've got basically the same amount. And when I place this on here, you can see if I line this up, I want to get as much of those little guys on there and not have them on my seam allowance, so right to there. And when I have that lined up, then I can again take my template, and I would cut and cut and cut and done. So fussy cutting, basically. All right, let's go back to our 2 pieces. So I've got my right side, I've got my wrong side. We're going to line up. This is the lining, this is the outside. We're going to line these up. We're going to be stitching all the way around. You notice I have no batting, I have nothing inside. Why? Because I want this to be as light as possible for the particular use. If you want it to be something heavy that's going to absorb, then you may even think about putting in some batting. I'd rather you think about choosing a fabric that will do that instead. We're going to stitch from here around and stop here. Why are we doing that here rather than on a straight edge? Mothers tell me when babies wear these that this part here around their neck, this part that goes around the neck, it basically kind of bunches up under their neck, and you don't even see that. That part right there, where we're going to be closing it, we'll be turning that later on. That isn't even really going to be shown. So we're going to start here, stitch around, 1/4 inch seam allowance, 3/8 inch seam allowance, 1/2 inch seam allowance. You decide based on how much bigger you want this to be from the original template or smaller you want it to be from the original template. When we talk about closing these, you've got a couple options for you. You can do snaps if you want to, cam snaps. We sell these tools. We sell a little package of this. That's one option. If you're doing really heavy stuff, the terry towels and things, this is not going to work for you. You can get the ones where you use a hammer and you bam, bam, bam. You can use this if you want to. Basically, like I do with my bibs, if you wanted to sew this on, or my coffee cozies, and put this around on the other end and have this wrap around, you could do that. I already showed you this option here, or you could use Velcro. You could even sew a button on here if you wanted to. We're going to go to the sewing machine. And you can use, if you want to, you can use straight pins and clips. I'm going to go ahead and just stitch. And, oh, I still have my zipper foot on. All right, we're going to go ahead and use my zipper foot. Go ahead and put your regular foot on, 1/4 inch piecing foot if you have one. And as I stitch, I'm going to go ahead later on and use pinking shears to pink the curves. So I'm not worrying too much about any of this. Now you can choose to make this a point, or you can give it a little bit of a curve. It's up to you. It is very gradual, so it's totally up to you as to how you want this to be. The point to me is a little bit more masculine. The curve is a little bit more feminine. So if you're doing for boys versus girls. And when we get to this point over here, remember we're going to stop and give myself a turning opening. And when I do that, I'm going to go ahead and back stitch. And I'm going to come back here. I didn't back stitch where I started, so I'm going to go ahead and just stitch down on top of that. All right. My pinking shears are over at the other table, so we're going to go ahead and snip, snip, snip. But I love pinking shears for projects like this because it's so much faster, and I don't really have to pay a whole lot of attention to what it is that I'm doing. If you are doing, and I see some inconsistencies in my stitches, so I am going to go fix that a little bit. The reason why I am taking the time to do that here is that this is, when I turn this right sides out, this is going to be an area where everything is joined together. So I want to go ahead and cut my stitches. I love our tweezers. I was looking for our, there's the tweezers. I love our tweezers as a seam ripper because they are so sharp, but same thing with the precision scissors. So I mentioned when I'm joining this, the left side to the right side, the one side to the back side, the other side, when I'm doing my join for the neck, it does make a difference having these not matching up. So I am going to just go ahead and rip those stitches out. And you would want to use matching thread, of course, and take the time to snip all of those other points. I'm not going to, because we're just doing a quickie little video on this. This is where a turning tool works really well. In just a second, I'll go ahead and grab this guy, and we'll stick that in the corners, and then we would do top stitching. I am going to go over and grab my top stitching foot, so let me do that and we'll come right back. All right. So if you have a top stitching foot, it is nice to be able to use one when you're doing a project like this. And that way it just keeps you a little bit straighter. And if you don't have one, it's worth buying. All right, so back to our turning. We're going to find that opening. We're going to poke in the corners. And if you've got knitting needles, if you've got a crochet hook, you know, those things work really well. Just don't poke the corners out where you're coming through that fabric. And a white thread, a gray thread would work really well here instead of the black, because we are going to see a little bit of this. And when you top stitch, having a matching thread or a real nice contrasting thread, you know, an orange, a pink, it's basically how well you top stitch. All right, so we would iron this really well. Instead, what I'm going to be doing is just separating my fabrics a little bit and just rolling it over a little bit. If you're doing assembly line bib making, the drool bibs, the baby bibs, the adult bibs, the fabric protectors, then having that iron right next to you works really well. And by the way, having the turntable for cutting these is another really big game changer. Our Martelli turntable, the roundabout, I've got several bundles on my website that kind of bundle up the ironing top, the no slip material, that wool mat, all of those things. When you're cutting something like this on a turntable, if you're doing one after another, after another, after another, whew, it's a game changer. And I know those of you that have our turntable, you would agree too. All right, so I'm rolling just a little bit. I would poke out that end a little bit more, and that really would benefit from pressing. Now, when we come to the closing, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a helping hand to turn, and then I'm just going to finger this a little bit here. The top looks pretty consistent. I just want to have the top on the inside and the outside lining up consistently. Okay, so now with our edge joining foot, you can pin right here. And again, pressing is what I recommend. Don't do what I've done. We're going to start right here. I want to move my needle way over, and let's see if I know how to do it on this machine, because I am going to start right at that corner. And when I stitch along that edge, I want to make sure that I'm closing up that opening. And I think this fabric is pretty forgiving. It's going to hold that closing or that opening closed till I get there. But if you have something that's moving on you, go ahead and pin or clip. And we do want to stitch that opening area close to that edge. We don't want anything popping open there and seeing raw edges. These are going to get a whole lot of use. Babies are going to be, I think, living and breathing in these things for a while. At least that's what you mothers tell me, that you all know what kind of fabrics work best for your babies. But there are some new fabrics out there, and if you haven't been sewing for babies, there are definitely some nice options for you to try out. Many of you know me talking about PUL, polyurethane laminate fabric. I love that stuff for so many projects. Diaper covers, the changing pads, those kinds of things, because it really is a breathable material and it just works so much better. Laminated fabric, many of us have done projects with laminated fabrics for years, but laminated fabric starts to smell after a while because it's just not able to be cleaned the way that PUL is. Okay, so we're going to stop here. I'm going to cut my threads. We're going to go back over to our cutting table, and let's do our snaps. And I've got black thread on the back here. A gray thread, a white thread would really do a better job. And the only reason I'm taking the time to get rid of some of these threads, I would grab my tweezers and clean these up a little bit more, is that we're going to be seeing those corners when we put those snaps on. If you do Velcro, Velcro kind of covers up a lot of that, but then you see the stitches on the top. Okay, remember when I took out those stitches to do them over? I want you to see why. You can see these two line up. When I had it before and it really came in, one of them would have been a lot more narrow. So I want to have these like this. So let's go over to the cutting table and we'll do our snaps. All right, so again, you can do a button, you can do Velcro, you can do snaps, you can do whatever it is. I'm going to grab from my little bin here. The oranges don't really match. Let's go with these, these blues. Okay, can you see how these two don't look alike now? And when I flip them over, when I flip that over, you can see it doesn't look alike. It doesn't look alike. So I know I've got the male and I've got the female. So I'm going to leave those two here. I'm going to put this guy away. And again, this is not going to work. These snaps are not going to work on a towel. on any terry, anything that's really, really heavy. Okay, so we did this a minute ago, and we're going to determine the placement. And I'm basically overlapping just a little bit. I'm going to take one of these and in the middle. Now I'm eyeballing, but you could take the time and fold it in half if you want to and put a little mark there, put a little crease. I normally don't. I just kind of eyeball it, and I'm going to stick that right in there. Now, when I push through, if your fabric does not poke through, mine did, but if it doesn't poke through, then you can use the precision scissors, you can use our tweezers, you can use any of our tools to help it. You know, you could just push down on top of there or even poke through. All right, so we want to grab either the male or the female. It doesn't matter at this point. I'm going to place that on top of here. Now, what you do want to do is take your time for placement. This guy here, the cap that's on the bottom, on the outside, is going to go in the bottom here. And when I place this inside, I want to make sure that that blue is centered. If you don't have that centered, what you're going to end up doing, I'll show you in a second, I'm squeezing tight. If you don't have that centered, this piece here, when you squeeze that down, it's going to come down, but it's going to come down crooked, and it will not snap for you. So make sure that it's centered. Okay, so we've got one done. Now we want to come over here, and we're basically going to be doing on the opposite side this guy. So this is going to go on the bottom. And this is where placement does matter some, but again, it's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to place this here. I'm going to push inside. And I do want it to overlap some. And again, if that fabric is not coming through, you can use your fingernails, or you can use the tweezers, or you can use the precision scissors. So we're going to place this on top. And now I've got the male, and we're going to grab underneath. That solid piece needs to be on the black, and that purple needs to be centered. Can you see what I mean by centered? I want to have that centered. And when I squeeze, I want to be ready. I haven't squeezed yet. I want to be ready to just hold it down and squeeze. Can you see how my fingers are pink there? Okay, and then we're good. We're going to look to see that was squeezed flat. It didn't fall over or anything else. And when I snap this, did you hear the snap? Okay, so now we've got this little baby drool bib ready to go. And if it's for a baby that loves kitty cats, well, then you're all set. If it's for a baby that doesn't love kitty cats, then don't give this to them. Give them something else instead. Cut all your threads, give it a good press, go ahead and whip up 20 more, because if you're going to make one, they're going to want another and another and another. I had one mother that told me when she was making the baby bibs, not the drool bibs, that her daughter came to visit. And she said, no, she went to visit her daughter, and her daughter was using the baby bibs, not only, this guy, the baby bibs, not only for the baby, but to clean up the drool and clean up the mess and clean up the spills as the baby was eating and everything else. And the mother said, oh, you like those? And she said, I love these. And the mother says, do you want me to make more? And the daughter says, would you, please? And the mother said, how many? And she says, 20? Or more. So again, be ready. These are easy to do. If you take out all my talking about fabrics, you can see how easy it is to whip these up. Cut, 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 cut. Do all your assembly line cutting, and then sew, 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 sew. Snap, snap, snap. Velcro, whatever it is that you want to do. The snaps work really well on these kinds of fabrics when you get to here. That's when I wouldn't be using the snaps. I'd be doing either the elastic or the Velcro. When you're doing elastic, test it out with the baby first. Put it on the baby somewhere if you can make sure you can get that over their head, because you're pulling this over the head. They can't take this off. So this is going to go over their head, and it's going to be pulled off. So if you're going to do something like that, test it on the baby first before you make a whole bunch of them. Okay, so where do you get this template? winnerdesigns.com, W-I-N-N-E-R designs.com. I'm doing something new with my new templates. This is the drool bib. If you want this drool bib, you'll see it's on my website. And that on my website is the retail price. If you want the discount, when you get to the discount code, if you're buying just the drool bib, type in the word drool. That's going to give you a 20% off discount. I don't know how long I'm going to have that available, but right now, if you're watching this video, Most likely, if it's fairly new since I filmed the video, that Drool, D-R-O-O-L, doesn't matter if it's capital letters or lowercase, can't remember if I said that or not, but you'll get a 20% discount off of this right here. So I hope you enjoy this. I know mothers have been asking this for a long time. Grandmothers really have been asking for this for a long, long time. So our no-slip material, it's going to make the cutting accurate, consistent, easy. Visit my Facebook page, Winter Designs for Sewing and Quilting, and my YouTube, well, you're here, it's Linda Videos. Thanks so much for watching.